Ooh. Right, guys, if you really want to find out about actual insecurities, you have come to the absolute right place, because this video is about my biggest insecurity. I've never before really spoken about it to people. It's something that I've become very aware of in the last couple of years. I have a fear of failure. The failure isn't the bad part. The fear of failure is the bad part, and we will talk about this in this video. Hello guys, my name is Mariam and welcome to my channel. Usually I make videos about productivity, creativity, life, motherhood and my UX design journey, and this video today is all about my fear of failure. Now, although I'm making this video, it's not something that I have gotten over. It's just something that I've learned more about myself in the last couple of months and years, and I feel at a good place where I'm able to talk about it. I feel like this fear of failure is so common in people, and the more I read about it and the more I speak to people close to me about it, the more I realize that I am not the only one. Yet for years and years and years, I suffered alone, and I suffered to an extent that I felt absolutely paralyzed by any decision I did make or didn't make or just couldn't make. And the biggest reason I have glasses on in this video is because, who knows, I might get really emotional because it's so real. Before we dive in, I just want to say there are 4 main reasons that I could kind of get down to through a lot of introspection that characterize what these fears are. You got me, guys. The biggest fear that I had for such a long time, without me actually realizing it, was the fear of what other people thought. I've always been one of those people that seemed so sure of herself, that knew where she was going and what she was doing. But deep down, I was so scared of judgment from other people, I stopped making certain decisions in my life I knew would lead me and direct me towards a goal that I wanted, just because I was scared of what other people would think about it. The really sad part of it was I wasn't really scared about the reactions of people that were close to me. I was actually scared of people I didn't really know that well. People who became my acquaintances, or I met through education, or I met through life, or people that I was able to maintain a very good and positive representation of myself. And I feel as if I do certain things in life and I fail or I embarrass myself, that would actually change their perception, which was previously positive. I feel like I'm somebody that has worked way too hard to kind of model and mold the way people think about me. And one day it just clicked. I realized that I had consecutively spent perhaps the last 10 years thinking so hard about what other people thought about me, that the direction that I was going in was a direction that wasn't really making me happy. And beyond that, I was limiting myself because I was so scared. I was absolutely terrified to the point that I would feel paralyzed inside of me just at the thought of what those were. And when it clicked to me, when the synapses started to happen in my brain, I realized that when it got to what I want in life, what my goals were, what my ambitions were, nobody, absolutely nobody, not my parents, not my siblings, not my husband, my child, my loved ones, my friends, my lovers, nobody, not my fans, you know, all my 93 subscribers, nobody can give me what I want. Nobody apart from me. Nobody has control. Nobody has that amount of control over the world or the direction that I go in to give me what I want. In fact, even the people that love me the absolute most in this world are more concerned, it's gonna sound harsh, they are more concerned about their own route in life, their own direction in life, and everybody works on their own direction and what their own ambitions are. And if I am going to stop myself from succeeding because I'm so concerned about all these other people, that limits me, because I am the only one who can fulfill my dreams. I am the girl of my dreams. So the second reason, guys, and it's a little bit different to the first, but this is another fear that I had. It's the one that even when I read about fear, it never really came up, didn't really understand it. And this is the one that I think stopped me from even working towards my goals. So like, even though I didn't know what my goals were, I at least knew what my passions were. And on a day-to-day level, or a week-to-week level, or a month-to-month level, I would do absolutely nothing to work towards them, or even train myself and better myself to be able to one day use those skills for something amazing. Like, I'll give you illustration, for example. Like, for years, even though I knew illustration and drawing was something that I absolutely loved, the most that I would do to invest myself in that passion was, number one, I would stalk the hell out of artists on Instagram. In fact, if you go on my explore page, there are only artists everywhere. Like, I love following art, and I would visually see and upskill myself by just looking at the way that people would make art. And secondly, that would inspire me to purchase lots of art supplies. I have embarrassingly boxes and boxes and boxes of art supplies that I have not used. And the reason why I didn't use any of these things or do anything about it was because I was so scared that I would not be and stay consistent on any path. I have always had an obsession about productivity. Like, most people know that the psychology and the way that we think and what makes us tick has just always been just something that I am so enthused by. But productivity and why we don't and how we don't has always been part of that. And I had this fear because I was so scared that I would start something and then give it up, that there is no point in me starting in the first place. I don't know if that actually makes sense, because it doesn't make sense to me anymore. But I was scared. I was terrified that I just wouldn't be consistent in any path. And because I wouldn't be consistent, that would be a waste of my time. It would be a waste of my resources. And mostly, it would be a waste of an impression that I have set for myself. Let me kind of give you an example. So like, most people that I've grown up with have always known that I am fairly creative and that I have more of a creative flair than other people around me, right? Yet, if I do nothing with this creative flair as I grow up, then people will slowly forget that I have a creative flair, and therefore they cannot judge me for the failure of my creativity. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either. Like, I just don't get it. To be honest with you, this is probably the only one that lurks in my head even now. Like, I'm still so scared that I'm not going to be consistent with things. And that's why the only thing that changed this mindset was making some really big promises to myself. So like, for example, like if I take YouTube videos, for instance, I have promised myself that as long as I can help it and as long as it's in my control, I will produce 2 videos a week. And that feels like something that is productive. And my fear was that I would stop making YouTube videos because I'm not consistent about it. And that would be, in a way, very embarrassing for me. Not so much the way that people thought about me, but what I would think about myself. Like, that would be a really shameful thing for me to do. Please don't judge me if I stop YouTubing, guys. So the thing is, now what I do, if there's any life thing that I want to implement in my life, I have to make a real solemn promise to myself that I am going to do this X amount of times in whatever time frame. So with YouTubing, it's twice a week. If I ever decide to go back to the gym, that would be 3 times a week. Making those promises really helps me out, and I think it's because it kind of leads to the first thing that we talked about. But I'm the only person that can invest that much inside of me. That time, those resources, those money, those thoughts. It's all me, right? So it's only me that can be accountable for my own decisions. And if I'm scared that I'm not going to be consistent, well then, girlfriend, you just need to be consistent. You have no choice. And then if you're consistent, you have nothing to be scared of. I have a big problem. I am a perfectionist. In fact, for as long as I can remember, all I think about are the small details in things, and that really overwhelms the perfectionist side of me. I think this is probably the one that most people are going to relate to. But a big reason why I was so scared to fail, why I never really put myself out there, was because I never thought that anything was good enough. So when I did my master's, where I specialized in documentary filmmaking, I made a series of different documentaries documentaries, which, to be honest, when I look back at them, they are pretty good, like especially the fact that they were like 6 years ago. And to be honest, maybe I'll be brave enough one day to show them to you guys. But those documentaries that I made probably could have really uplifted my career if I really shared them with people and if I really showed them off to people. I really believe that people would be proud of them. In fact, the only time that I would show them to people was if I'm being forced to show them. And it's because in my heart, I wasn't really happy with them. And I was unhappy about things that when other people have watched them, they just haven't even noticed. I think that whole mindset of concentrating on small details is something that I found it so hard to surpass. And this is something that I have kind of tried to get over a lot, because I've realized now that people don't really care. Because everyone is so concerned about themselves and their own transformations in life, they're not really bothered as long as those little details that I want to be perfect about do not really affect the quality of something and the overall experience of something. And as long as I'm not accountable to somebody else for those little details, overall, nobody really gives a shit. So I don't know where it comes from. Like, I don't even brush my hair. I only iron my clothes when I'm forced to. And for the longest of time, my school bag was the same school bag where I used to sew off the handle every time it broke. Like, I'm not perfect in so many other areas of my life, but when it comes to my work, I really am. I'm just so protective over anything that I create that I am scared of the criticism that it's going to gain. And because I've already had this conversation in my own head about what that criticism might be, I concentrate more on the imperfect part. And then, yeah, this is a tough one, guys. I feel like I'm having a therapy session to myself. This is really tough. We're gonna have to do some more homework on this one. Does anyone have any book recommendations, maybe? And finally, now this is one that has definitely stayed with me for the longest amount of time, but I have a fear of growing old. Now, this is not only because I tend to leave a very immature approach in my life. I think it's a little bit different to what most people might be assuming. I don't mind the grey hairs and the wrinkles and all of that stuff. The part that I am most scared about, I remember having a conversation where the topic was what my biggest regret would be at the age of 50. I know 50 is a very specific number, but what would be my biggest regret at that age if I did not achieve or be or become or go or whatever? And I realized that my biggest regret would be if I didn't work towards something or was not working towards something I was passionate about. And I've realized that I've had this thought since a really young age. It's never really been about the destination for me. As we've established, we do not have a finite destination right now. We only know what the journey is going to be and all the things that I want that journey to consist of. But the truth is, I expected to achieve way more in my life by this age than probably most people around me. I thought I was going to be one of those very successful children's stars that I used to watch on CBBC. And I expected some kind of miracle to happen where I would be given recognition for my talents and my intelligence from a really young age. And as I grew older and older and older, and still I had achieved nothing with my life, I became very insecure about my age. And I started to believe that as I'm getting older now, the likelihood of me achieving anything was also lower. Now, I know this sounds bizarre because the transformation that I had was not a glamorous one. It was literally the smallest thing, lying in bed type of transformation. And it was literally just thinking about how so many people that are deemed as some of the most successful people in the world have only attained that level of success at like the age of 40 or 50 or 60. And their early life was actually nothing that they could uphold and say that that was successful. And it took just a little spark in my head for that to be okay then. Like, I had lived till my late 20s thinking that I am a huge failure in life because I have not achieved much. But there was no reason for me to think that. In fact, all the failures and setbacks that I've had in my life were probably so important to me becoming the person that I am today, that without that, maybe I can never really reach the peak of success I am destined to reach. I'm okay now with failures being a part of my life, and the more failures that come and the more embarrassment that comes in my life, I am learning still to become more comfortable with that. And I know that brings a lot of judgment and a lot of criticism and a lot of negative thoughts from other people. But I've come to a point in my life where I am accountable to nobody, because nobody is going to give me the happiness, the success, and the recognition. Actually, the recognition might come from other people, but I gotta give it to myself. And I am prepared to work damn hard to get there. So guys, that was a real one. You agree with me, right? That was a real one. For those of you who have watched it all the way till the end, well done. I hope and I pray that nobody else is going through the same amount of fears that I have. But honestly, like, if anyone needs to talk or anyone can relate to any of these things, then please reach out. I would love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to give you some insight if that's something that I am qualified to do. Like, I just feel like it's always a learning process. We're all leading a path where we don't really know how it turns out. We don't know where to go. Like, most of the time we're directionless, and I certainly have so much to learn. I just believe that learning by speaking to other people is one of the most magical things that can happen. And I feel so blessed sometimes when I think about it, like completely engulfed in the blessings of being born in this time. Because if you think about it, we could have been born at absolutely any time in time, but I'm so fortunate where I remember a life without technology leading everything. And at the same time, I live a life now where technology is at the forefront of everything that I do. And I'm able to communicate with people that I will never meet in life. Like, I just find that magical. And I feel like we should all just really think about how blessed we are to be born in a time where all of that is possible. So I thank you again for watching my video. If you want to connect with me, please connect to me via my Instagram or my Twitter. If you like what you see and you want to see more of it, then please subscribe, and hopefully, yeah, 2 videos a week, guys. Wish me luck.